Welcome to the TRBusiness video channel. We are here with TFWA Managing Director John Rimmer. John, thanks for coming to see us and taking time out of your busy schedule. Just really general one to start off with. It's a year since we've probably, when we met in Cannes last year and spoke. How would you assess the state of the industry and how it's progressed in the past year? Very general.
I think the numbers that we have suggest that there's been growth over the last year, particularly in Asia Pacific. The beauty category seems to be driving that, and I think most of the beauty brands that we talk to are pretty happy with the growth that they're generating in various parts of the world. Obviously, there's a number of challenges. Our president, Alan Mangro, alluded to some of those in the conference on Monday. I think we all need to look at where we are as an industry with regard to sustainability and ensuring that we can future-proof our industry in a number of different ways, and we need to address some of the concerns that consumers have on that issue. So there's a number of challenges, but I think we can be broadly optimistic about where we are. Yeah,
I'm going to pick up on some of those things in some of the other questions I have, but just looking ahead to a key date in our diary, October the 31st, which is looming now. What are your feelings? What do you think, if you can make a bold prediction, what do you think? How do you think things are going to transpire?
You're talking about Brexit rather than Halloween.
I'm definitely talking about Brexit, yes.
Brexit, okay. Both equally scary. I think from a purely industry perspective, our colleagues in the various associations and particularly the ETRC and UK TRF have been working very hard to try to get some clarity from the various authorities on exactly what's going to happen after Brexit to the duty-free industry, particularly in the event of a hard Brexit. I can give you my personal view, but I think from an industry perspective, we're just trying to make sure that there is clarity and that the companies are able to see clearly of what they're going to have to do on November the 1st. From what I understand, the rules that are being drawn up are rather convoluted. I think it's going to be very disruptive. I think it's going to be tough for all the companies, whether brands or retailers, to adjust to a completely different regime literally overnight. It's pretty scary. We've dealt with sudden change before. When you think about abolition back in 1999 and all the turmoil that caused, I would think Brexit should be somewhat, I would hope from a duty-free perspective, somewhat more straightforward than that, but it's really about getting clarity, and I certainly salute the efforts that the trade associations have done to try and help us to see more clearly, but it's clearly going to be disruptive.
Excellent. And just for some of our viewers that obviously weren't in the conference on the first day and didn't hear Alan's speech, you touched on some of the challenges that he alluded to. Can you just give us just a little overview? I mean, we've got across the various categories, tobacco, etc. Can you just give us a little overview of some of these key challenges and where we are and how you think we're progressing?
The key word obviously in Alan's speech was sustainability, and that covers a broad range of different themes. We need our industry to be sustainable. We need it to be sustainable for everyone, because if one stakeholder in the industry, in the ecosystem, so to speak, loses out, then everybody ultimately is a loser. We need to create an industry that works for everyone. So there are a number of challenges around the business model that you'll be familiar with and that we often hear about, but that doesn't mean that it's any less important to deal with. I mentioned sustainability in the sense of the environmental impact of our industry. We need to work together as associations, as retailers, as brands to work out what we can do in order to minimise the impact that our various activities have on the environment, but also to encourage and to reassure travellers to buy with confidence, knowing that the impact that we make is sort of minimised. I think also I'll touch on the data issue. We've had a lot of feedback, obviously, on the fact that we didn't present any industry data this.
I was going to mention.
Yeah, it's a constant battle, and I have the utmost respect for the various data providers, and thinking of Generation Research in particular, who have done a lot of good work over many years. We've got to a stage, we think, where the data that we have is not robust enough for us to really feel total confidence in it, and I think it's an area where we as an industry really need to make progress, because, as Alan said, if we can't measure our own industry, if we can't understand exactly what we're worth, what's happening in the various regions and various product sectors and all the rest of it, then how can we persuade authorities of our value to the travel business and to economies worldwide?
So kind of sent quite an important message, I think, like not giving those figures, because even us as media, we all expected to see the figures, then the question mark came up on the screen. So are you hoping that this, it's going to have some impact. People that come to the conference year on year expect those figures. Alan eloquently made these points. So I guess you see that you've sent a message in the correct way here.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's nobody's expecting that. Nobody's got a magic wand about this issue. This issue, if it was easy to solve, people much more intelligent than me would have solved it many years ago. So it's not an issue that we're going to be able to solve overnight. But what we'd like is for people to understand that there is a need to move forward. I think that the sensitivities around data sharing are clear and understandable. You know, I think it's entirely natural that companies would be a little bit wary of sharing data if they think it's going to put them in a weaker position. So we need to address those concerns. We need to find ways where people are comfortable with sharing data in a meaningful way, but it's got to happen because again, as an industry, we don't know ourselves well enough. We don't know what's going on well enough.
And have you got any concrete, I mean, you talked about the need to do it, but are there any concrete like initiatives that you can do, like in order to bridge that gap in data provision that's currently that confronts us?
I mean, I won't name the companies that are active at the moment, but there are a couple of companies that have made some progress in that. It's all about reassuring the retailers in particular that the data will not be attributable to any particular location, that it can be aggregated in the right way. But it's not. It's tough and it's difficult, and it requires a certain change in attitudes, but it's not rocket science either. So I think that there are intelligent solutions that we can find as an industry, and we at TFWA certainly want to encourage those solutions and try and find a way forward.
And just moving on, today I was at the airline and the retail workshop, which I thought was great. I thought the panel were great and very insightful. Just in your own words, how would you assess the current state of the in-flight retail? Aldrich started off his Aldrich of Cathay Pacific began talking about the trolley, about debating whether airlines should still persevere with the trolley. Just generally, how do you see the sector at the moment? Are we moving towards more pre-order?
I think there's a number of interesting models that are emerging, and Charlotte alluded to some of those in her opening comments at the workshop this morning. I think we heard from Valerie Meary from Free, and there are other companies, Sky Deals, others, AOE, doing interesting things. So there's a number of different ways of it evolving. The workshop touched on the need to include airport retailers in the model to work closer together. I've always felt that we didn't, as an industry, work together with the airlines as well as we should in terms of the ground retail. But I think there are mutual solutions that can be found to drive everybody's revenue. And I hope very much that the airlines will continue to consider retail as a service to their customers, because time and again it's been shown that customers do appreciate having a retail assortment, some kind of retail offer in the air, and many airlines have proved that it can be profitable. So I think if we work together on different models and new ways to engage customers, I think it can work.
And jumping back to sustainability, it's for me myself to hear. It's been covered so extensively throughout the conference, from Tony Blair, in all the different press events I've been to this morning, including Mars. You alluded to the fact that the importance of it, but where do you think we're at? Do you still think we've got a lot as an industry? We've still got a lot to do. I personally feel we are making progress, but where, in your opinion, do you think we're at? Do you think we are? Do you see the same feeling as me?
There's a lot more that can be done on that. I think. As was alluded to in the conference, I think it's a question of taking small but concrete steps to improve the way that we do business every day. There's a million different things. If I look at our business at TFWA, obviously we organise some major events. I think there are over 23,000 square metres of carpet that we've laid down this week in the Palais de Festival here, and what happens to that? And we need to be thinking seriously about the way that we are sustainable. I think you've seen some great initiatives from our exhibitors in terms of the materials they use and in terms of what they do. I think retailers are increasingly aware as well, and airports know that they've got to have a sustainability component in their business model. Otherwise, they're going to really struggle. And ACI, I know, are very active in that, and we're seeing a lot of good initiatives. So it's small steps. I think everybody in their office needs to look at what can I do that wastes less. What can I do that just means that I'm having less of an impact on the environment. And I think all of us in our daily lives can do little things that end up making a big difference.
Of course. And also off camera, I've spoken to you before about the trade associations, the excellent the relationships you have. Can you just give our viewers an insight? How do you go about working in collaboration with the various trade associations and ensure that the relationship remains strong and that the industry benefits at the end of that?
Yeah, we're extremely big believers in outreach to other industry associations. We're fortunate at TFWA that we have very good relations with the different regional trade associations around the world. We're fortunate to sit on the board of APTRA, on the board of MEDFA and ETRC. So we take that very seriously, and we support behind the scenes a lot of the work that those associations do in terms of representing and defending our industry. I think we have good interpersonal relations with a lot of the people that work in those different bodies, and I think we as an association, given the challenges that we face, given the challenges around certain product categories, given the challenges around packaging, there are so many areas where a common single voice is needed and necessary, that I think it's more important than ever that we support the industry associations, and we're obviously keen to do that. And the World Council, the Duty Free World Council that we helped to found, is moving forward well, and really needs to keep moving, and everybody needs to get behind these associations because they can't run on thin air. We need the support of the retailers, of the brands and the airports, because ultimately we're working for those companies, and we need their support.
And obviously, this was the first Cannes with Alain giving his maiden State of the Nation speech. And how would you reflect on the period from Eric leaving and to the transition to Alain? It's been quite a substantial period now.
Just under a year now since Alain was elected and Eric stood down. I think it's important to stress that the service that Eric Yule Mortensen gave our association literally since it was founded. He was one of the names on the first ever document that certified the association, that founded it, and he brought a huge amount of passion, integrity and knowledge.
Yes.
Was somebody who really had a strong sense of where the association should go, and we really benefited and are still benefiting from what he did for TFWA. So I think that's important. Alain obviously brings a certain continuity, having worked for the association for many years. He's got amazing experience in terms of the organisation of the show, which is the shows, I should say, Asia Pacific and World Exhibition, and that helps us to ensure that our main events are still delivering value for the industry, and that's important. So Alain has a good vision on the events, and will bring in time his own stamp on the association.
And just a final few, I just wanted to revert back to the conference. Obviously, we had former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. What was your thinking behind appointing such like a controversial character? I mean, his actions when he was in office, people strongly disagree with. What was your? Can you give an insight into your thought process behind that, and how do you think he did?
Firstly, I think it's important to note that we're fortunate in Cannes, TFWA World Exhibition and Conference, that we can bring speakers of the calibre of Tony Blair. We've had Kofi Annan in the past, we've had Madeleine Albright, Colin Powell, John Major, Jose Maria Aznar, Neil Armstrong, had all kinds of really top speakers, and that's something that we want to continue to bring to the show because we believe it adds value to the event. So we wanted somebody, given the times that we're living in, given, you mentioned Brexit, but we could talk all day about any number of other world issues that are really going to affect our business and are affecting our business at the moment. So we wanted somebody who could talk with authority about those issues. We knew full well, I knew full well, in recommending Tony Blair as a keynote speaker this year that he has a controversial record. I was living in the UK for many of the years that he was Prime Minister, and we remember what happened with Iraq, and that was and continues to be a hugely controversial decision. And I respect, and we as TFWA respect the opinions that people may have. However, we felt that he was an articulate, intelligent, authoritative speaker that was going to be able to help us to see more clearly through the fog of different issues that we're facing at the moment. And I personally am delighted that it was such a fascinating session. I've had only good feedback about the quality of his speech and the conversation between him and Stephen Sacco, who I should mention does such good work for us as moderator. So we were confident that it was going to be a really fascinating conversation, and I'm delighted that that's how it turned out.
And I have to mention, there's been there was some people speculating about the fee that he's commanded, and you know that the people have done their homework. People know. What's your message to people that I don't know that even like raise this? I mean, it's
people. I don't know. We're just talking about people doing their homework because. Any fees that we pay to a speaker are subject to a negotiation, and that's subject to a non-disclosure agreement, which is entirely natural in that kind of contract. So I'm not sure what homework people have done, but it might not get very good marks. But obviously, as I say, we as an association are fortunate that we can invest in speakers of that kind of calibre, but we only do so if we think it's going to add value to the event and if we think that delegates are going to enjoy it. And we were confident that would be the case with him. And from all the feedback that I've had this week, I think it was the case.
Excellent, great. And just finally, the last couple, you've extended your association with the Palais here. You're going to be here. You must be very happy about that, I assume. Everyone's continuity knows.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's but these decisions are not taken lightly, and they're not taken without consultation. We've consulted widely with a lot of different stakeholders. In our event here in the World Exhibition and Conference, and Cannes has always been a very popular choice. There are challenges, we know, but I think there are very few, even no cities that really have the unique atmosphere that Cannes has, that has the level of infrastructure and services that we can find in a relatively concentrated area. And we felt that Cannes was a viable choice for the next couple of years, and our exhibitors and delegates, from the feedback we've received, agree with that. So we're delighted to renew our agreement with Cannes, and we look forward to being here in the future.
And last but not least, the Innovation Lab. It was the opening, the official inauguration recently, and we were part of it as well as the first specialised media sponsor. How excited are you about it?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been an enjoyable project to work on, and I'd like to salute the work that our team in Paris have done on the project, because they've worked really hard on it. Really delighted to have the support of the press, such as yourselves and others, but particularly our sponsor Alibaba Group, and also all the exhibitors that are there, because it's really brought, I think, some freshness in terms of the concepts that have been deployed. You'll have seen some of the stands that are there. There's some really interesting ideas, some great executions, and we wanted really to have a showcase for some of the new ideas that are out there, and we hope that we'll be able to build on that and make it bigger and better in future.
Excellent. Thanks ever so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Andrew.